Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. So you guys know I specifically love to draw Pokemon, especially my own sort of design or spin on a Pokemon. I have made baby forms of Pokemon and I've also made alternate evolutions of Pokemon. Well, today I'm going to be doing a type swap for Pokemon and we are going to be starting with Gengar. And you can actually tell straight away what I'm drawing because of that famous smirk that Gengar has. The half circle eyes and then the big creepy smiley mouth. These parts of the Pokemon are very important, so I decided to do them first just so that I could get them, the way that Gengar looks. Because I am drawing him as a different type, I still want to have his same sort of presence and personality in the character. I don't want to change it up too much, but I also still want it to look fresh and new. So as you can see, we have still a very similar silhouette for Gengar here, just made with different things. And I've also added on a tail there because I felt like it was just missing something, and I decided to put in a leafy kind of tail, kind of reminiscent of Leafeon. I think that fits well. I still wanted to give him a bit of a pop of colour other than green, so I decided on some deep red eyes, but also a nice pink flower on his forehead. The flower in that spot kind of reminds me a bit of Mega Venusaur, but I actually like that. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do for his arms, but I decided on some sort of twisting, winding vines, and I think that actually fits quite well. And I like the little tiny leaves hanging off those vines too. I just think that it was a nice little detail. So now for the background, we have mostly this character done, and of course, as you can tell, he is a grass type Gengar, so I am going to put him in a nice little forest. Now I still wanted a slight eerie vibe because this is still a Gengar, so I decided to have some really nice soft misty colors in there to add a little bit of mysteriousness to it. And I added quite a lot of green because, well, green forest. And I really love the way that I painted these vines here on this tree. I actually tried a new way of drawing vines, and I just used one of the hair brushes in Procreate, and then I used a sort of leaf kind of brush, and I fiddled with the settings a little bit to get it to, in a way that I liked, and then I drew those leaves on top of those vines, and actually adds a really nice soft vine look that I really like. This is actually quite exciting for me because honestly I have struggled with drawing vines in the past where they looked natural, so getting this was quite a bit of an accomplishment for me. Not a huge deal of course, but a little bit of a win. So here is the final results for this Gengar, and honestly this is a pretty good start, so let's move on to the next one that I am going to be doing, and that is of course Venusaur, which is where Gengar got his grass typing from. Now this Venusaur here is taking the ghost typing from Gengar. So I began with a basic base for Venusaur, which is quite easy. It's basically a toad with some pointy ears. And then I added on some characteristics of a ghost type, especially Gengar. So I added on quite a bit of spikes, as you can see. I made his ears longer and pointier, his eyes wider and more creepy looking. And as you can see, there is a gravestone on his back. What better way to symbolize ghost type Pokemon than literal death? I added on some ghostly wisps around, hanging around his back to try and add that same shape that the leaves had, or at least roughly, and now it's time to move on to the inking phase. For the inking, I actually used a different brush than I normally do when I ink digitally, and that is the Mercury brush because honestly I just wanted a bit more of a rough textural shape instead of like crisp and clean like I usually do. And I think it looks pretty nice. Next up is the coloring, and of course I had to use purple because it's one of my favorite colors, but it's also one of my favorite colors for ghost types because it just looks awesome. And honestly, if a ghost type looks more like Gengar, then you're going in the right direction. Now for the gravestones on his back, I kept it mostly grey with a soft purple hue to it because it would just fit in better with the other colours, but also, look grey but also still look kind of colourful, which is where I like to have my art. I gave him some yellow accents. Now that's actually a hint towards one of the old Venusaurs from Pokemon the first movie. I felt like it just looked, I like the patterns that those guys have, the clones from the original movie. So of course, for a background and obviously an environment for this Pokemon, I decided to go with a graveyard because, well, that's just perfect for him. And here is the final result, and honestly I love this one. He looks creepy, but he also looks kind of cute too, and that wasn't on purpose or anything, but I'm quite happy with it. So after that successful, as I may say, type swap for Gengar and Venusaur, I decided on a different duo, something a little more cuter. I also wanted to do some art with some brighter colors as well, because the first two, they are quite nice and colorful, but they are also quite dark. As you can see, there was a dark jungle and a dark graveyard. I wanted something a little more bright and happy. And what kind of Pokemon is brighter and happier than none other Pachirisu? So Pachirisu is normally an electric type, but we're actually changing his type today to fire type. And I actually decided to take a little bit of inspiration from a red squirrel, because fire type Pachirisu, it just made sense. So when envisioning this artwork in my mind before I drew it, I actually had the image of a Pachirisu sort of jumping off a branch onto another, and as you can see, the branch is sort of foreshortened. So as you can see, it's like coming closer to the camera, and the tree looks smaller slightly in the distance. Now I don't know if I did that perfectly or anything, but I am quite happy with how it looks like it's just coming out at the camera at an angle. And of course we're going to have a little Pachirisu there jumping down. I think it's going to be pretty cute. Now I've made the background light blue at the moment just so that I can get my colors right, but we're going to be adding more detail in behind that later on. And for the branches, I'm actually using the twig brush, which is a nice sort of textured brush. And also I decided to add in some leaves using that same leaf brush from a previous artwork, but of course, you know, modifying it a little bit here just to sort of get the density right and the scatter right. And now it's time to move on to Pachirisu. Now, as I said earlier, I roughly designed him off a red squirrel. As you can see, we have some pointy tufts coming up from his ears, and I did that on purpose because red squirrels have like little fur tufts on their ears, but Pachirisu normally has some spikes along its tail. Now I decided to have a completely different tail, and the tail is mainly made up completely of fire, you know, it's completely fire. So I wanted to have those spikes somewhere else because it is, you know, an important part of Pachirisu. It's what makes Pachirisu look like Pachirisu. So I decided to put them on his back and on the tops of his ears, kind of like the spiky-eared Pichu from a movie a while ago. Now it actually took quite a few iterations of color for this guy until I settled on something that I was happy with. I knew I wanted some reds and oranges and yellows in there, but I just couldn't decide on which went where, and you know, how warm or how reddish it was going to look. But overall, I think I'm pretty happy with the look of him, and I think he looks like a fire type Pokemon, definitely. And here is the final results. Look how cute this little guy is. So we know Pachirisu has turned into an fire type from an electric type. So what fire type Pokemon today are we going to be turning into an electric type? Well, I've decided that Pokemon is going to be a Vulpix. I love Vulpix. I think it's really, really cute, and I can't wait to see how it looks in an electric type sort of look. So straight away I thought to myself, where is an electric type fox going to live? What kind of environment is this little guy going to have? Is he going to live where they're, you know, up on a mountain where there's lots of storms, or is there going to be like in a power plant or something like that? And I decided neither of those. I actually decided to have him live in a big sort of neon kind of city. I just thought that a big city with lots of neon signs and bright lights and you know, technology and electric powered everything, I think that would be a super cool thing for an electric type Pokemon to live. I just felt like it could absorb all kinds of electric around them, you know, electric currents from lights and, you know, stuff like that. I just thought, you know, that's probably a place that a Pokemon that is an electric type would like to live. And honestly, I just really felt like drawing a dark, you know, city with lots of bright lights and stuff like that. I thought it would look really cool. So that's exactly what I drew. Now I started off with just a rough sketch of a city, and I actually used a reference from Pixels, but that was mainly to get just like the perspective right, because honestly I'm not the best at perspective. I kind of really need to use a reference for that kind of thing. And then I added in different layers, just boxes where I wanted the buildings to be, and then I ended up adding a lot of texture over that, and lots of different colors, and like subtly different colors on each building. And this one actually took me quite a lot longer than the others, because honestly I just had to build up so many different details and make them all fit cohesively into a nice image. Now for the big light up screens, as you can see, I have one that says Pocket Monsters and another one that has like a Pokeball on it. I actually added a few effects to those. I used a halftone effect, but also a glitch effect, just to try and give it a bit of a digital look to it, so you could tell it was more like a screen. And for the lights in the background of the buildings, those lights I actually used a light pen for. Now those are in the luminance section of the paintbrushes that I'm using, and that one was quite useful. I still had to mess with the opacity a little bit just to try and get it somewhere that I liked it, but I really had a lot of fun with that. But for the windows closer to the character, I had to actually draw those in by hand, and I used a few different colors because I wanted this artwork to be super colorful, even though it is really dark. And I decided to have lots of you know, neon signs around, which was really fun to draw. I basically, you know, used the light pen to draw them over some shapes, and it was super fun. And as you can see, we have a neon sign that says Jigglypuffs. I'm guessing that's going to be like a bar or something. and you can see I have a Pokemart there, and it has a nice sort of neon sign that says open. Just, you know, stereotypical sort of city things, I guess. I don't know, I don't go into the city much. So now it's time to work on the Pokemon, you know, the whole reason why you're watching this video. And yeah, I had a lot of fun creating him, especially the wispy parts on his tail. I really wanted to have the fur sticking up in all kinds of directions, because I felt like the static energy that this Pokemon is holding is probably going to make its hair stick up everywhere, and perhaps it stores that static energy in its tails. I feel like that's a pretty good thing that the Pokemon would do. That sounds believable. So he stores static energy in his hair, but he also has super cool hairdo. And I really like that I made him yellow. Now this is a more of a greenish yellow instead of like the golden yellow that Ninetales is, and I did that on purpose. And I actually decided to take some of the colors from the background and add them into the edges of his fur, as if the light is reflecting off his fur. I just think it looks really cool. And I decided to have him sitting on top of a neon sign that conveniently says electrify, because, you know, he's an electric type. And honestly, I really love this artwork, and I really like the vibe that it gives off, and all of the bright colors but the darkness as well. It just looks super cute, and I love the way this Vulpix turned out. I just think it's super adorable, and I think it, you know, gives off that whole electric feeling. I think that worked pretty well. So anyways, here is the final results for this video, and honestly I love these 4 Pokemon so much, and I had so much fun making them swap types. I just think it looks so cool, and it was a really good exercise too. Now I just want to say thank you so much for watching this video, and I also want to say I'm kind of sorry that my videos are a little bit less frequent at the moment. I'm just going through some things at the moment, but I'll have some new videos up for you guys very soon. I have some pretty cool stuff planned, and I can't wait to get into it, and I hope you enjoy it too. So anyways, if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button and the like button as well. It really helps me out, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye everyone.